to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to Wake Up Africa on the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. Special shout out always to our Patreon family and everyone that supports us, through PayPal. We appreciate, love you so much. We do have extra shows on Patreon around the Wake Up Africa topics. And of course, we offer our Patreon supporters, opportunities to really suggest topics, etc. And yeah, we're kind of still, the funeral, the great celebration of the life of Magufuli continues in Tanzania. It started in Friday, and there is such a global shock and global pain. I think Magufuli's death has actually awakened a lot of people, because a lot of people can see through exactly what happened. And ironically, there's a lot of information that's coming out. At first people thought he'd been poisoned or, etc. But, Magufuli actually had a pacemaker. And then now it's actually emerged. I mean, there's been recent research that shows that pacemakers can actually be hacked for political or financial reasons. But I want to talk a bit about the magic, the kind of dark magic that has been used over, or should we say white magic, that has been used over Tanzania. Because in the month of February, they lost like 10 prominent people. And, it all culminated in the passing of the great Magufuli. So, the former Bank of Tanzania governor, Professor Benno Ndulu died. And then, after him, the former finance and planning permanent secretary, two economics died just as Tanzanians were mourning, the chief secretary, ambassador, John Kijazi, and so on and so forth. But you see, this is not a normal situation. This was a staged operation, beloveds. And what they were doing, in discussions with my Tanzanian counterparts, what they were doing is they were causing people, they were playing multiple games on people. And so they were throwing like death arrows. And I told you guys, the world is spiritual before it's physical. You really need to understand that so you can understand this stuff and how it works and how this lesser magic works. So they were sending death arrows to different people close to Magufuli. And then after they send those death arrows from their covens and through their witchery, etc., I mean, there's ways that they do it. They would then get the media through, social media blogs, because we don't have discipline as an African people. We don't have discipline to know when to kind of figure out, to not go for the likes and retweets and wait to hear what's going on. They would now say, so-and-so is sick, so-and-so has Rona, so-and-so has this. And, some survived those, and then kind of media would pick it up, and some survived those. And unfortunately, Magufuli didn't. Because when he disappeared 2 weeks ago, they started, man. They'd already sent the death arrow. They'd been sending those death arrows, but they started. But the greatest weakness is he had a Mzungu pacemaker in his body. And that's why I released the thing, the 5 urgent things that African presidents, African leaders, if you're going to be a rebel in this revolution, the 5 things you need to do. And number 1 is get off the Babylon health system. You should never get sick, beloveds. If you're eating right, if you're eating the diet of our ancestors, if you're thinking right, if you're kind of out of the matrix, you should be good. 24/7, 365, which is also a lie. Anyway, it's so crazy how much is, but this may sound totally strange to many of you. But you see, when our voices come together, when we see a rumor like Magufuli is missing, and then our voices come together, and then some people start saying he's gone, other people start saying he's not gone, other people start saying he's got Rona. All of that, beloveds, because we are the melanated people and we have creator authority on this planet, all of that goes into feeding that, beloveds. That's why in these seasons and times, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because we must not be allowed, no, we must not allow ourselves to be part of the spells that bring down our own people. We have to realize that as a melanated person, you were given the power to create experiences and realities when you move in this realm. But that power has been hijacked by others, and they've used it to create their own reality. What do you think happened spiritually before colonialism and slavery came down physically? Because everything happened spiritually first. If I get you spiritually, it's only a matter of time before I get you physically. And if I can get the powerful melanated people who are supreme beings to come together, it's like an attack. And the greatest weapon that they are using against us right now is the social media, the Twitters on this world, because we're sending so much energy through these things, through their matrices. And we don't understand or overstand, especially these vloggers and bloggers who are just promoting the Babylon system because they think it's cool, it's hip, it's like earning them amazing money. But it adds no value and it keeps our people asleep. And then, over the weekend, so after that, I got this, after I was meditating on this, and I was just like, whoa. So literally they would send a death arrow, chanting whatever they do, There's many methods. I'm not even going to get into that here. I don't want to encourage anyone to get into that kind of magic. But once they did that, they would take the mental energy of millions of people, because millions of people discussed Magufuli. I mean, they put it on their mainstream media. BBC talked about him missing. Al Jazeera. So he was on the minds of many. And no one came forth and said, a few of us tried. Let's pray. Let's send some good energy. Let's cut this off. Because as we're moving forward, beloveds, things will happen spiritually first. And that's where we have to stop it. That's where we have to block it before it hits the physical. We must start to do that now. And that's why I really want to send a word of encouragement, because someone, to our prophets or seers or anyone who's giving any kind of negative message about our people on these platforms, it is so important that we recognize the prophetic code or the seer's code. That if you give someone bad news, this is coming, this is coming. Because I got someone sent me a prophetic word about how Tanzania is now going to be invaded for their uranium, etc., etc. And I actually, for a few seconds, I actually found myself praying like, oh no, this can't happen, But I was like, it's not going to happen. Certainly not. That's the energy me, as a supreme being, I should be putting forth. I should be dedicated to chanting and praying. And that's why all of you hidden spiritual prayer warriors, all of you who chant them down, I'm going to start doing shows on how we can chant even just for our own lives and for us as a collective. That's where we need to be. And any prophet who is releasing a statement needs to give a solution. Don't tell me Tanzania is going to be invaded if you're not giving me the solutions of let's pray, let's fast, let's come together collectively at this hour. Because, the Most High doesn't need everybody, but he needs somebody. Some situations don't need everybody. It's funny, during a very turbulent time here in Kenya, during our elections last year, I don't know when, 2018, was it 2018? They were canceled. There was a lot of like chaos, and everyone had prophesied that, Kenya was going to go into this crazy civil war, and there's going to be mayhem, and then we saw, like, I mean, there was so much. The opposition leader named himself president, and it was just like it was about to pop off. Then all of a sudden, the fire cooled, because every fire must cool. And let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa. Welcome back, beloveds, to Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Seraki. I'm really doing this show just to open your eyes to what is happening behind, the curtain. How these things are operating, because I think a lot of us right now, we're ignorantly committing ourselves to this global theater without knowing the consequences of our actions. And as I was saying, I was explaining about Kenya's political party, and at that time, I happen to have been very favored in terms of meeting some really highly spiritual beings at that time. I was talking to a highly spiritual woman, highly. And she was telling me, the Spirit of the Most High, Creator, it doesn't need everybody, but it does need somebody. And so sometimes, and the spirit of the ancestors as well, if there is an attack, an impending attack on a city or a nation or a country, certain people will be raised up to fast and to pray. And maybe no one even knows these people. Because we're not all equal, beloveds. There's some who have the power of one because they're so spiritually weak, and that is the majority of our people. But there's some who have elevated themselves to the point where their voice, their single cry is like the cry of millions. That's how high they're vibrating. And I remember a story I was told about how, some cities are controlled by the spiritual benevolence of one person. Just by their presence in that city is safe. And let me not go into too much into that, but I'm really hoping that somehow you'll understand that we are so spiritually weak for this to have happened as a collective African people. Because unfortunately, our strength is measured by the weakest among us. And they had to get our participation to invade Tanzania, because it was a spiritual invasion, beloveds. But I'm very happy to report that, Tanzania is still in control of it's still in the control of our people, but we need to chant. And that's what I was saying about even prophets giving messages. At such a time as this, if you, as a prophetic voice, because that means you've elevated yourself to some kind of spiritual level, come out and say to your audience, Tanzania is going to be invaded, and you don't offer a solution, then you are part of the problem. And the voice you're hearing is not the voice of anyone or any entity that's, that is for us. And we have to really be careful who we're giving our eyes to, who we're giving our ears to. I know many of our people have started leaving platforms like Twitter in their hundreds, because especially after surrounding this whole Magufuli, Magufuli's takeout. But the reason they were able to take out 10 Tanzanian, leaders is because of perception and chaos magic. Perception magic is I throw something into the air, and because I've created a needy populace, they will do the dirty work for me. I mean, some could argue social media helped to take out Magufuli just as much as, hacking his pacemaker, allegedly. If you don't get the world is mental, then you'll totally think what I'm saying is just crazy. But that's why we can't jump for every breaking news. We can't jump for every story. Especially as let the little, the lower beings, I don't even like to call them that, the ones among us who are totally confused, let them do that. But you, as you elevate yourself and you raise your vibration, you stop having the authority of just you, because you're now walking into your supreme being, supreme being status. And you start having much more influence where you can literally sway events that are happening. And collectively, we're going to be put together. And that's how Africa doesn't need, Zion doesn't need everybody, but it needs the chosen ones to come together and do what they need, raise themselves first, work on themselves first, and then come together and really do some amazing things on the spiritual level. Because if you're looking at this whole thing physically, then you've missed it already. And as I said, this is not the season for us to debate. So if you don't agree with someone, keep it moving, beloveds. Your life depends on, you need to get yourself together. You don't have time. Don't be a minion. Don't be used by the enemy, because that's what's happening with so many of our people. The ignorance levels are shocking. But Tanzania is fine. Tanzania is standing firm. The people are heartbroken because they know exactly what has happened to their president. I mean, you could hear them weeping. But part of the reason that the powers that be were able to pull this off is because of our chitty, chatty, chatter, chatter, chitty, chitty, chatty. We always want to be the one in the news, in the know, not knowing that we're driving the agenda because we are the melanated people and we're the ones with power. I really hope I'm making sense. I'm just going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments, beloved. It's so painful to see how ignorant our people are. But many actually, this has shocked many awake. Love that. And the level of love that the world has seen. We reject every negative plan of the enemy. We need to start chanting, doing some chanting together, beloveds. Chant down Babylon for real. That's like the final step. I'll find you in the comments. Until next time, tuko pamoja.